Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing, you may ask? Well, it's something we all do every day, maybe with our loved ones over dinner, with coworkers at the water cooler, etc., when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or sort of more agreed upon fact-based reality. Although, because Dr. Ray and I, Dr. Kay, are social constructionists, we don't actually believe there's one true objective reality, but rather our own personal versions of it constructed in the context of relationships. But you get the idea. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as licensed psychologists about the reality out here, off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. Listen, y'all, we have a lengthy version of our disclaimer in the show description text, also in our old episodes, but we do ethically need to at least include part of it at the start of each episode. So here's our briefest version of the disclaimer. If you've heard it before, you can skip ahead 30 seconds, or for the old episodes, 2 minutes. So although we're licensed psychologists, psychotherapists, supervisors, in the context of our professional roles, we are not acting as therapists in the context of this pod, neither for you nor for the reality castmates we discuss. We will give our opinions as our whole human selves, albeit supported by our psychological knowledge, and we will talk about diagnoses rather than assigning them, as we cannot ethically assign diagnoses without formal psych assessment. But both the opinions and diagnoses we discuss might easily be erroneous, as we don't personally know the folks in reality TV shows. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song.
Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed. Cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test.
Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to check in and take a seat wherever you like. We're doing some more traitor stuff here. Traitors, with a really good episode that came out this week, we both were saying.
Indeed. That was a really good traitors. I liked that. I might have to listen to that back. We should have Connor lay a track, as they say.
I love it. Exactly. And we'll make it part of our theme song, but just for the Traitors episode.
Perfect.
Done.
And done.
Done. Before we head on into traitor land, I'm wondering, dear Dr. Ray, what is on your heart and mind today?
On my heart and mind today is pneumonia. I had pneumonia this week. I got the flu and then I got pneumonia. So if you're hearing my voice, it's on the up and up, but it's been a funny week for my voice. But I'm feeling better, and that I'm very grateful for. A lot of people seem to be getting the flu right now, and it seems to be a pretty gnarly flu. So if it has hit you, I am sending you lots of good vibes. But it is nice to be feeling like a human again, and to be back here with you all. And I'm grateful to Dr. Kay for letting us delay our recording so that I can actually say words.
No, of course. And also, that's right, because the last time that we recorded, you were just starting to get the flu. So you were saying, like, I'm a little bit sick because dear Dr. Cornerstone, he's not doctor, I'm so sorry, because of dear Sound Cornerstone was very sick. And you were like, oh, but I might be starting to get sick too. And it's like, then you ended up going, woof, just going surpassing in the illness department.
I did indeed. It was a good role reversal because often he does a lot of the housework. So I was like taking care of things. And then we did a hard pivot back to our traditional roles because it's been a rough week. But
thankful for that. Thank you, dear Connor Sora, for taking care of our dear Dr. Ray. I also love that because it's the same thing with our household roles. He's also he's the caretaker of the house, which is a thankful thing for me. I'm loving this. Loving that. That's something we align on because it is a role reversal from usual traditional gender roles. And it's important that men also feel capable of taking care of the home and feeding us.
Exactly. Because we need to be fed by someone. And I expect dinner on the table at 6. No, I'm just kidding. Connor. I do not expect that of you.
No, that's entirely a joke. And, that's the truth of feminism. It's like, we're not looking for exact reversal of what it has been like for us in the past. We're looking for an equity, just like,
yes,
we don't need to be harsh about it the way men were harsh about women being in the kitchen. Also, by the way, which is right back in the zeitgeist with our political sphere. Anyway, no, we're not going there. We're not pivoting. The despairing land of our political world. But
It's pretty despair worthy.
Yeah, it certainly is. It is a nightmare land full of hellgoblin and these poor rest of our marginalized groups that are victims of that. So yes, I suppose I will not talk about that for my check-in though, which is to say that my check-in would be I had a really just lovely Valentine's Day with my husband, which definitely is a privilege. And to all of you who may not have had a loved one on Valentine's Day or may not have been able to be with your loved one on Valentine's Day, you have our love, thinking of you and sending heart eyes and hearts to you. And yeah, we just had like a series of surprises for each other throughout the night, and it was just really cute. It was just a really nice one. Yeah, it's nice it aligned with President's Day, although I don't understand why we have a national holiday for President's Day. But you know, to be fair, I don't think at least the current president is deserving of it, but I think it might be supposed to be for our founding fathers anyway. So, but again, it's like for like white dudes. Anyway, point being, the nice thing about that is that we got the 3-day weekend for Valentine's Day. So, good time for you to recover as well.
Yes, 3 days of love. It sounds like you had a lovely Valentine's Day, and it sounds like a blast, especially you and your husband are over a year married, coming up on 2 years. How many years is it?
Yep. Yep, that makes sense. Yep. And before that, we were together for several years. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We've known each other for, I would say, like, I wanted to say 2 decades. It's probably not. Oh, actually, it's almost 2 decades. We've known each other for almost 2 decades soon. But yeah, with the way timing worked in our lives, we've only been married for almost 2 years now and together for 4 or 5, 6. So it's cute. It's nice. It feels like we've known each other forever before we actually did meet each other and have actually known each other for almost forever. So it's just been a delight. It makes it hard to know how long anything has been. I was like, yeah, 2 years? Yeah.
2, 7.
Yeah, that's right.
5 lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly. In the best of ways. Yeah.
Oh.
So what a delight. And then you have a wedding coming up, so you'll soon have a wedding anniversary as well to celebrate.
Ooh, yes, in May. Yes, listeners, we are doing that thing in May, yeah, it's a whole thing. On a May Day, exactly. Hopefully, it's not that kind of May Day situation.
It's a good kind of May Day situation, like May Day. Everyone alert! We're having a great day. I don't know. That's bad.
May Day. This is a great day.
May Day, great day.
Great day. May Day, great day. Everything's fine here. Kind of feels like the state of our world right now, a little bit.
Everything is May Day for sure. In the context of a May Day. Yeah.
Yes. May Day, nothing to see here. There's 5. We're doing 5 things today, so you can't focus on any one of them, and they're all horrible.
Exactly. The newspapers will talk about these 3 things while we do these other 2 things that are more importantly negative for you all and positive. Did you see the spread, again, quick little political pivot here, but the spread of tax deductions and increases each as people have more money or in the higher money brackets, the addition to the increase of tax gets less and less. And then at some point it turns into a deduction of taxes and only for the people like over $1 million or whatever. And then suddenly it's like a deduction of like $1,000 and something dollars.
What the fuck?
Dude, it's ghastly. And when you really look at it like starkly in a table, it's just like jaw to floor. Like, how did that? And then how do people who are in the lower income brackets who are supporting Trump, how are they okay with that? Like, how do they not see how this is not the guy that knows you or cares about you? You do not relate to him at all.
Shit about you. No.
Mm-mm. No.
That's awful.
It really is. So with that note, we'll go to traitors instead. A different kind of traitor. Let's do that.
Indeed.
Gosh, I don't know if that was bad I said that.
I think it's just true. He is a literal criminal and a traitor. Yeah,
still hasn't shown us his taxes, by the way. So there's that too.
He won't. No. I'm sure.
Spoiler alert.
Who should go first?
Yes, great question. So I think you went first last time, so maybe I'll go first this time. Maybe that works.
Perfect. I like it.
So we are on episode 8, We're going to first follow up on the murder that took place at the end of episode 7. So this, as you may recall, was in the chapel. They were in the chapel, and only the people who could have been murdered, so who didn't have a shield, would go to the chapel, walk down the aisle, and when they turned around, if they saw Alan, they were safe. If they saw the traitors, they were murdered. So even though usually we start the episode with like following up on the traitors turret, in this case, we actually went right to the survivors breakfast because that's how we were going to find out who was safe and who was murdered. So in the survivors breakfast, those who were safe and could not have been murdered just all came out first, and they're all in the breakfast happily safe. Then Sam comes up with a scheme. And this is my first segment because I thought this was a smart move. And therefore I gave him the playing a politically strategically smart game. Because he thought up this idea that if they ask each person that comes in what Alan was wearing, that then they would have to be a faithful if they knew what Alan was wearing, because he believed that the traitors would not have seen Alan. I got the sense, though, it turned out they did actually see Alan because Carolyn said I shouldn't be banished for not remembering what he was wearing. So I think she may have actually seen him, but they have everybody describe what Alan was wearing. The funny thing was they tell this scheme to Tom Sandoval and come up with it when Tom Sandoval comes in. And then the first person who comes in after him when they're using this new scheme is Carolyn. And poor Carolyn kind of like stumbles on it. And she was like, oh, he was wearing and then Tom, feeling bad for her, just jumps in and says, wearing a black version of the kill. And Sam was like, nah, like tried to get him to stop. And so he very much whoopsied that. And then Gabby jumps in and says, well, basically Carolyn was on the line of pass fail, but ultimately she passed, and kind of giggles. And Carolyn was like, what? Like, she's like, ask me more. But it basically ended the scheme and no one else was asked that we saw. But I thought that was interesting. You know, I was like, if they had kept asking, that would have worked well because Danielle was the only other one who was a traitor and she had already been safe. So poor Carolyn, though, she really it basically just sucks she happened to be the first victim of that. Like if she had just been a little later in the thing, it would have been fine. But what a smart tactic.
It was smart. I had a few things here. My one thing was like, it would have made this stronger if they would have kept asking people. I was like, why did they stop asking people?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But then I was also thinking about the over-reliance on memory, potentially. Like if someone asked me when Alan, and that was the psychological concept that would have made this more effective, is like acknowledging that maybe memory is not that good. And also, why is Tom Sandoval the base? That you're like, oh, we must base everyone else off of what Tom Sandoval says. Yeah. His memory's not that good. We've seen him do different memory games.
No. He didn't even remember the scheme.
No, he had to rescue Carolyn from herself. Yeah. But it was, so I was like, this was a really good idea. And I'm not sure you could be too sure of it. Because so that was kind of my thought. But I wish they would have asked other people because I think that would have been interesting just to see what they would say and how they'd react.
I wonder if they didn't because of what you're saying, like they realized it was sort of unfair because they couldn't tell if Carolyn just didn't remember because it's Carolyn or what. And I totally agree. I think it is a little bit almost ableist to be like basing it on memory. And I think also like, especially at a time of stress, because that was like a stressful moment for people. Like, am I getting murdered or am I saved by Alan? And so it would be easy to forget. And I think she did say black. She said something about black. The one thing she said was black and he was in all black. So fuck it. I don't know. I feel like that should have been enough anyway. They should have just given her the win for that one thing. But yeah, I agree. I didn't even really think about that being a sort of ableist thing because it really is. I think it was a smart idea. Like you said, it was a smart idea of Sam. It was like in the right direction of even just using it as a moment for strategy was a strategic kind of thing. And it's really the most we've seen of Sam being strategic, frankly.
Yeah. We got a lot of him this episode, I'd say.
But everyone else gone, he kind of has to step up. We have to see a little bit more of him.
We sure do. It's been interesting. I have thoughts on that too. But yes, excited to talk more about Sam.
Me too. I love it. Okay, great. So then it turns out after everyone comes in that Chriselle was the one who was murdered. And then we skip back to Chriselle in the church or chapel or whatever, being confronted by the traitors. She just still faced it. She was so bummed and sad. And I felt bad for her. Yeah. She ends up, she asks them, can I ask you why you killed me? And they said, you're just too good of a traitor. She tells us face to face in the camera that she was shocked that Carolyn was a traitor, but not shocked by Danielle, which is not shocking to us.
Right. Everyone knows she's a traitor, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems very clear. It seems obvious to us and to them. So Tom then tells everyone at the table, well, Chriselle was floating by. Like, she stayed below the radar. He basically said she was not putting herself out there until everyone was going in one direction. And I loved how someone quickly, I wasn't sure if it was Britney or actually like who it was, but somebody quickly said, well, that's a personal vendetta you had. I was like, yeah. I think it might have been Sierra actually too. And then he replied, that's not a personal vendetta. I was like, yeah, it was.
That was a really good Tom Sandoval.
Thank you. This is whiny adolescent voice.
It was so good.
It's not a personal vendetta. It's like a little bit like Napoleon Dynamite, kind of.
It totally is.
That's so good. So he defends that. Sierra brings up that Britney's basically playing a similar game. And then Tom says, well, Britney was putting herself out there more, though. And Britney just sort of does like a, like, what are we, why did I have to be caught in this kind of thing? So then after breakfast, yeah, exactly. Like, please leave me out. Post-breakfast scheming. This is when Tom's asking Carolyn about her thing with Danielle. Basically, he's like, something happened, right? What was that? And she ends up feeling forced to tell him about the lie that she caught Danielle in or whatever. Basically lying about her to someone else. Oh, Brittany, I think, was the one she told them. So she tells them that, she tells us, like, I don't want to go against Danielle, but I also can't lie at this point because they're wondering, and that would seem weirder. So Dylan then says to Carolyn, but just the group, he says, we don't have much to go off of, so that's something. And then Sam says, separately in a different group, he says, we should revisit the coffin night, which clearly to us means Sierra is who he's going after. Brittany brings up that Sierra was agreeing. She's like, Sierra was agreeing with every word of Rob's. But then she says to Danielle separately, let's not let Sam take charge, but he is right. Okay, you have a segment, yeah.
I do. So I think that Sam, one of his psychological tactics here, whether or not he meant to, was like leading with patriarchy kind of thing. Because there were two, it was Bob the drag queen, who was kind of the patriarchal voice at first. Then Boston Rob came in. And I think Sam saw an opening a little bit
alpha
to be more of the alpha, to be more of the one who kind of calls the shots as someone who's been quiet and has played a very observant game, to be fair. But so I think patriarchy was at play here a little for Sam. There was he was all of a sudden coming in very hot, at least the way it was edited. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe he has been the whole time.
Right. That's a part of it that's tough. It's like, are they just showing us more of him now because there's less of other stuff to show us? Or is he showing up more because there's less of anybody else showing up? Like, is he filling a void or are the editors filling a void? And I think you're absolutely right. He at least is definitely also filling a void of powerful alpha dog energy. For sure.
Cutting through the nonsense. But yeah, we'll see how it works out for him. I am not sure.
Which segment is that for?
That was for the psychological tactic, I think. Okay. That one.
Fabulous. So then Sierra brings up to Gabby that Danielle and Brittany seem to have a strong alliance. And I think she might have said this to us, but she might have said it to Carolyn, where she says, all gamers say is, I don't play game. Bitch, all you do is play games. And I think she did say games. I don't play games. Bitch, all you do is play games. Oh, fuck. You're into your territory. My bad. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no worries at all. I just realized too. So then we go to the challenge and we have 2 5-person teams. This is a hilarious. Oh my God. This is the funniest. This was prime television.
I actually made a video out of one of them. I made a video out of 2 parts of this episode, but one of them I haven't actually made it yet or put it out yet. But one of them was from this. It was so good. The challenge was so good.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. But yeah, Alan, just seeing Alan break character is so funny and fun. So what they do is there's 2 5-person teams. 5 go with Alan and 5 are in the castle. Only those that went with Alan could get the shield. Danielle wants to make sure she's on the shield team so that Carolyn can't know and she does know. I see you have a segment here.
Aha, thank you so much. So this is where I believe I gave this one to politically or strategically sloppy game, and why. I mean, poor Danielle, she really is our resident sloppy gamer. And to be fair, she is doing better in some territories, but not really in other ways. So here I thought she was sloppy regarding this idea because it doesn't really make sense. Like, why does she want to make sure Carolyn doesn't know who has the shield? Because she says it so that she can protect Britney. So is she planning to protect Britney by saying that Britney has the shield when Britney doesn't? But then what happens if Carolyn wants to go for someone who actually does have the shield? Like, if she's like, no, Britney has the shield, and then Carolyn's like, okay, well, then let's go for Dylan. And she's like, oh, well, and she like can't convince her not to do Dylan, but it's because Dylan has the shield. You know, so it really, to me, I was like, this kind of a sloppy game choice. And sure enough, she doesn't even end up using this tactic. Like, it doesn't even help her in the end. She just tells Carolyn who had it. So the other thing is from this episode, just to finish the segment out, is that her like shaking and crying comes back to roost a couple times during this episode. So her sloppy gaming at large is also apparent in this episode.
It's just too much overacting, I think, is what's happening. But yes. Oh, Danielle.
And then in this case, like thinking too hard or something. I don't know, it's not thinking too hard, but like thinking of a strategy that didn't actually work or like wouldn't work in this case too. Yeah, like overacting in general. And then in this case, like thinking of a strategy that was ineffective.
And like, why not just be loyal to Carolyn for a week to prove that you can be? Because y'all need to rebuild trust. There's been a lot of rough moves, mostly by Danielle, but you know, Carolyn's made a few too.
Yeah,
but
totally.
But anyway, I guess she'd rather be loyal to her bestie Britney. Who knows?
Yes. Yeah, who used to be like an enemy from Big Brother.
Seasons past. I wonder if they're trying to do, sorry to get off topic, but I know last season there was CT and what's her face?
Yeah,
that blonde woman. Are they
Trishelle.
trying to do one of those, like the, you know, we overcame all odds? Well, like Danielle's not, because she's a traitor, so she couldn't be. But maybe,
that's
who
true.
knows?
That's true. But yeah, similarly, I mean, I think that happens in general. Like that also happened with Jeremy and Tony, because even though you were an enemy in a different game, you're also all each other has. And so like if that's the only other person you know, or just the fact that you both have played a different game, so you know how that game style works. And so you have that to like work with a little bit, that lets you speak a different language that only that other person can speak. And so I could see a real pull to get close again with the one, even if you're enemies from another game.
That makes sense. Huh. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, so hilarious. So there's these weird dolls who sing nursery rhymes backwards. It is so funny. And play these creepy dolls, and they play these essentially nursery rhymes backwards. And then the team who's with the dolls has to then sing those backwards nursery rhymes back. And then the people at the house have to sing them and put them through something that reverses them to try to get a nursery rhyme. So it's a whole thing.
It's a whole epic thing. I love it.
It is so bizarre. So weird. And then Alan read the dollhouse. There's no structure, no strategy. It's a mess. At the beginning, everyone seems to be looking for shields. But then Tom decides that it's his time to step up and show us what an amazing singer he is. He says that he's the only one who's musically inclined in the whole castle. It was so funny. And he sang super flat. And then Sam said he was a terrible singer as Alan laughs behind Tom singing. Alan's just in the background losing it.
Alan, who has like a Tony Award, is like on Broadway, and he's back there like, oh my god,
what is this guy? The only person in this whole castle is musically inclined. Okay. Come on, bro. So funny. And then he says, someone come over the phone, please, so I can do another one. He's like, so, ready to go. He's like in his element. Alan says, who are you calling? Put that down. Go back. Don't let
because Ivar comes over. This is one of my favorite parts. It's the fucking funniest. This is actually what I used for the video. It's like, he goes, someone come back. He's like done on the phone. He's like, someone come back so I can keep doing another one. I think thinking that someone else had a song ready to go was his point. But he didn't understand, like, no one had one. So he says, come take it so I can go do another one. So Ivar runs over and gets right on the phone. And Alan's like, what are you doing, Ivar? Who are you calling? He's like, I don't know. He's like, get back over there. Don't let Tom bully you. It's so funny.
Tom was having his moment in the sun. Oh my God.
Yes. And bossing people around. And Ivar was quick to hop too. It's like Ivar with men is so different than Ivar with women. It's real clear.
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of sexist. He's been sexist at multiple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
He's my sociopolitical one for today on that very issue of sexism, because there were multiple instances. And this is one of the instances in the report, like to like prove it, like that he does it pro men, but not women. So gross.
We've got enough of those in the world right now.
Sure do. And sure do in positions of power. And he's in the royal family, like not surprising, of course, but it kind of tracks, right? With the reality of today.
It surely does. But so that challenge, if you haven't seen it, you got to watch that video because it is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, and I didn't include the end of it, just that they won it. They got all $5,000 and Sierra got the shield.
Yay, Sierra. So then post-challenge, the target seems to be going back and forth between Britney and Sierra. Carolyn warns Sierra of this. Sierra names the Britney-Danielle duo as dangerous, rightly so. Mm-hmm. She names Danielle as a particular option because she was the name in Jeremy's mouth. And then he went home after the coffins. She also says that all of the shaking and crying is too much. And yeah, she is my resident sloppy player this time and always. Sierra
Danielle.
Also says Danielle. Yeah. Not Sierra.
Yeah.
Sierra also says this to Sam and Dolores. At the round table, Carolyn tells us that Danielle has a lot of heat on her. And can't defend her because it would put her at risk. So this is pre-round table, right? Or is this at the round table?
It's like as she's talking about it, like as she goes to that, like as she's walking to it, kind of.
Oh, right. Gotcha. Sierra, she's getting kind of geared up. She says she's ready to cry or eviscerate someone in an argument, not really sure. And Sierra kind of starts it off at the round table, re the coffin theory. Do you think this, I was thinking about this. I was wondering if this, I think she did a great job, but I was like, I wonder if she would have sat back, if more energy would have gone to Britney. I wasn't sure. Like if it was better for her to address it head on, or if she should have kind of seen where the tables took her. And I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I really could see either way as well. I think it was probably going to go towards her no matter what, just because the people on that side were all loud, vocal people. Like the people who were anti-Sierra were like all like Ivar, Sam, Tom Sandoval, like all of those people, basically all the dudes were all anti-Sierra, and I think they would have been loud no matter what. But I don't know. I think the other thing was Britney was like so good at defending herself when it was against Rob that I think Britney was the wrong way to go. I think she should have gone for Danielle. Yeah. And then she should have done that. She should have used her time to talk about Danielle and just gone for Danielle.
Oh, that would have been a good tactic. Mm-hmm. Damn.
I think so.
Who knows if it would have worked? It might not have gone any different. It might have just been too little, too late.
Because all these men ganging up. Like, it was these men ganging up together, which is what we're going to hear about the round table. It's like a very sexist round table. It was like all the men just basically being like, it has to be Sierra no matter what, because we need to know if the coffin theory is true or not, period. End of story. Like,
which is so silly. Like, there's doubt with it. That's the only way you can be sure of anyone is if you eliminate them. It's a weird logic.
The proof is in the pudding. That's what that expression means. The proof is in tasting the pudding. You don't know if a pudding is done unless you taste it.
Yeah.
You don't know if someone is a traitor unless you fire them, unless you eviscerate them. And by that, I mean banish. So now Sierra says basically, so there were no traitors in the coffins, unfortunately. And then Ivar turns to her. This is where I have my segment about Ivar and sociopolitical bullshit. Ivar turns to her and says, it's not just the coffin theory. There's actually like a lot of little indications. For example, we believe that the remaining traitors are likely to be girls. Okay. A, girls, not women. Gross. Stop it. 2, we believe, making it clear that he's part of like a men's group that's like having this conversation that's like clearly like the you know, whatever, like the panel of true faithfuls believe the remaining traitors are likely to be girls. 3, you're now putting all the girls on their back feet. Like, I just on their, you know, on their heels, whatever their expression is. I just really did not like this at all. And it started off what then became a very sexist roundtable, including on his part in particular. So the other thing that Ivar did, where I'm going to come down and tell you about that right now. So, and when he later said that Sierra would have been cajoled by Rob and Bob the drag queen if she'd been a traitor is effing wild. I guess we'll come back to that and I'll explain it when it happens, but that was so effing sexist. And wouldn't that have applied to Danielle too? Because she said that she would never have murdered all those people. She was like, I would never murder those people, so that's why I'm not a traitor. It's like, well, if you believe that women would have been cajoled by Rob and Bob the drag queen, then that would mean that argument is null. So it seemed very like inappropriately used to get out Sierra in particular, with use of sexism. Okay, so we'll come back to that part. But Ivar was really rounding out here. It made me realize I've never seen him one time collaborate with women. Not one time.
Yeah. Yep.
He's always been men and with men and talking about men and working with men about men to get out women, to get women out of the canoe. You know, it's like each
that
part
was
of it.
Gross.
Ugh.
I hated that. Ugh.
So hate that. Then we have this real gem of a moment, which is the first video I already made that's on social media.
Oh my God.
Which it was so a real gem.
Funny.
It was a real gift. Which is
so funny.
After Sam said, not Sam, my bad, Ivar said that the remaining traitors are likely to be girls, Tom goes, well, at least one. And he means, I mean, come on. He's like, plus, just historically speaking, girls are better cheaters than guys just because they have better social skills. And then very correctly, the women are all like, what? Danielle was like, that came out your mouth? And then other people were like, what are you saying? Oh my God, Tom. And he goes, I mean traitors. I said traitors. And then obviously he didn't say traitors. So Britney was like, you said cheaters. And he said, I meant to say traitors. He's like, guys are more likely to cheat. I obviously know that. And Sierra said, we know you know that. We know you know that.
Oh my God. It was so
so
funny.
Good. It's such a good Freudian slip.
What a foot in mouth moment for Tom Sandoval.
It meant he had to admit he knows men cheat more. It was a delight. And then he said, I meant to say traitors again. And Sam said, just don't dig yourself deeper, man. So then he just like puts his head down. But I mean, good God, if that wasn't a delight. So I do have a segment there as well, which is my Your Psyche is Showing. So I think obviously it shows his preoccupation with cheating and, you know, women and, you know, probably also just like his distaste for women probably at large right now, just given how all that went down. And then the preoccupation with cheating as being a thing that happens at all. But, you know, that men are more likely to do, because then he ended up having to say that out loud. Backed it up into that position. So that's funny. So
pretty funny.
That'll do
damn
that.
Funny.
That was amazing. Yes. So then Sam says to Sierra, if we don't close it, we'll never know. The highest likelihood is on you unless we have more evidence to go against, which we don't yet. So Sierra says, well, I'm just going to have to plead with you again because I'm a faithful. And yeah. Britney says, it was telling to me that the only votes against me were you and Rob. And Sierra said to Britney, you've skated by at round tables. Britney says, well, it's likely to be someone laying low since we've had outspoken traitors. So she's like, look at Bob the drag queen and Rob. They're outspoken, so it's more likely that because I'm below the radar, I'm less likely to be a traitor. So I also had a segment here, which was kind of like a two-parter. Because I was basically thinking, like, for one, these are both of my ones about like how a psychological concept would help or was evident. So first of all, Britt is using right here social comparison. So she's saying using social comparison, if you look at whom the traitors that we've found are so far, which are Rob and Bob the drag queen, they're outlandish. So that would mean that we're more likely to find more people who are like that, social comparison. But the psychological concept I thought they should use basically probably the process of elimination would be, well, I don't even know if that's quite the right term for it, but I think basically that would be like what they should have used, which is the fact that, yeah, the ones that we know about were the outlandish ones and they're gone. Mm-hmm. So like, who's still here? You know, the people who are still here are probably not outlandish because those are the ones that are still here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if we think about Bob the drag queen and Rob as being the outlandish traitors, they also were the ones that were easier to find. So I feel like that would mean to me that rather than thinking that the remaining ones are outlandish, I would think the remaining ones are not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like someone should have said that, but okay. So then Brittany says it's more likely for Faithful to be laying low. Sierra says, well, Jeremy ended up dead, and the last name he had in his mouth was Danielle. Danielle said, well, I was shocked when Jeremy said my name. I am a Faithful, you guys. I voted against Boston Rob twice, and if you look at the people taken out of this game, they were people I was close to. Ion, Bob H., Derek. There's no reason I would kill those people. Yeah.
I had a segment here. So usually, again, Danielle is my resident sloppy player. I think she had evidence of sloppy play this game. This episode, I will say this was actually a good move by her and showed me that she has some like resume or like ideas in her head of how to defend herself. I was like, pretty good defense that she had at the ready. So I was impressed that she did that. I still don't think it's going to save her. I think she's on her way out. I think people are on to her. But I was like, oh, not bad. So maybe, like, who knows? Maybe if Sierra would have gone for her, she could have put that and it would have been too, I'm not sure. But I was like, okay, Danielle. So it showed me that at least there's some strategy to her game, even if some of it is misplaced.
No, totally. She's like ready with some good arguments. And it was smart that she kept it short. She just said, here's my argument, done. She didn't overdo it. So she didn't look defensive. She did have a good argument. And the funny thing is, those are all people she would not have wanted to murder, but she really did get cajoled by Rob, which is Ivar's argument about Sierra. So that is kind of funny how that worked out. But it ended up saving her that was the case, you know? So that's good.
Right. She didn't shake. She didn't start crying. She didn't do all that. She just did like a nice, argument.
Which is a good reason to make part of your image be the shaking, because you can choose when you don't shake. Like if you're in control of it, you can choose when you don't. So then you look less like you're lying in those moments, or like you're upset.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, that does kind of work to her benefit. So Sandoval says to Sierra, you swore in the coffins, which could be seen as cool or as fearless, like you knew you were not going to get murdered. I was like, what the fuck? It could be seen as cool, like, excuse you. Like, what is your thing here? It's none of your business. What the fuck? Yeah, such a weird thing to say. It could be seen as cool.
What do you mean, cool? Like, chill? Like, I'm chill?
Right. It could have been seen like as you're like a cool cat because you swear. Or it could be that you were okay with being murdered. Like, no, it's not even about like that she's cool. It's just like that's her personality, which she goes on to say basically. And then Sam kind of tries to say it better, where he's like, well, it's cool that that's your personality, but it was also premeditated. What do you mean it was premeditated? It was not premeditated. She just said it. Yeah, that was so gross. It was very like, it was strategic kind of a thing. But yeah, tell me. And I
know, I thought his psyche was showing a little there. It felt like slightly sexist to me, and also like a little like black and white thinking. Like I absolutely know that this is what you were doing. But then I'm like, is some of it, he mentioned like not knowing English very well for a couple of, is he still like learning the language? I don't know. Because it felt like you are very, very sure about her motives and what she was doing in a way that I didn't like. It's cool that it's your personality, but it was also premeditated. Like it just bothered me. But so then I'm like, is he getting a little too big for his britches or something in the way that he's putting ideas forward? We'll see.
Yeah.
But I didn't
totally. Totally. I would love to see how he talked about that with more words. Like if you were to explain that more, what would that look like? Because that word choice was choice. That was a choicey choice.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. So Sierra said, I'm not going to back down. That could have gotten me killed, maybe, or could that have gotten me killed? Maybe, but I'd rather die a faithful than die a traitor with more time. A traitor with more time. Right. She'd rather die then than get more time because she's a traitor and have to like back down. Okay. I don't know. Something like that.
Something there.
So this is where Ivar's sexist nature just comes right back to the fore, like bawling, like rolling in heavily like a boulder in Indiana Jones. So he says, if Bob the drag queen and then Rob came in, they're two quite powerful traitors, and they probably thought it was a good idea to have a traitor in the coffin, so they'd probably prevail on you. Because we can't see Bob or Rob going in the coffin, so they may have persuaded you. Super, 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 super sexist. To be like, well, they're men and they're powerful, so they probably made you get in the coffin. And like, you're so weak because you're a woman, you would have had to say yes. Like, that's the implication. Obviously, that's not quite what he said, but that's the implication. So Sierra said, no one's convincing me to get in a coffin. Get the fuck out of here. I'm so my own person. I do my own shit. No one is convincing me of anything. I know you want to close the lid on that metaphorical coffin because it ends that, but you're going to be like, fuck, we should have believed her. So I thought this Sierra did a good job, but sadly it really wasn't enough, which is just a real fucking bummer. This is where I had a segment about if producers were psychologists. So this is kind of funny because it's going to go like run like kind of opposite to how we usually use this segment. But if producers were psychologists, I think they would have made this choice to put this episode on this night of television, because the same night that she left the Traitors is the same night she was first on Summer House again on the new season. So the new season came out that same night. She basically went from Scotland to the Hamptons in the same night or whatever. And they have her talking about it. Like, she talks about it on Summer House, where she was like, yep, I was just stuck in a castle in Scotland for a month or whatever she said. And she's like, and now I'm here. It was really great because I think it helps with the disbelief, like suspending disbelief, because she's not there anymore. It is hard to think about her in both places at once. So I really liked it. I thought that was a great night for her to leave the show. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Sierra night.
Yeah. Good old Sierra.
Fuck, friend, I went into your sheet again. Okay, so take it from votes.
Oh, that's okay. That is fine. I didn't even know. I was like...
Right? Still
didn't track. Oh, wait, where am I? Okay. And then...
Yeah, so votes.
So then there were the votes. So unfortunately, Carolyn, Dylan, Sam, Ivar, Dolo, Danielle, Tom, Gabby, and Britney all voted for Sierra. Sierra is the only person who voted for Britney. Sierra at the end, it makes me furious that they're mistaking my fight mode for being guilty for something. I was raised by the strongest woman, my mom. She didn't have a lot of help, but had to figure it out on her own. She's gotten everything she ever wanted and more because she stuck to her guns, and she didn't raise a weak bitch. I thought this was super socio-political. Sierra getting voted out here felt racist to me because it was like she's getting punished for having emotions as a Black woman when she was in the coffin. It feels like it goes back to that. It was noted that she had a lot of emotions when she was in that coffin. Would a white woman...
And that is part of her personality. And that is part of her personality, too. They're tracking that that's part of who she is. Is the racism word, too. Yeah.
Which it's also like she was in a fucking coffin. That's really stressful. Like, I'd be fucking... anyone would be stressed. And people respond to stress in all sorts of ways. And it's like her reaction got punished. And I'm not so convinced... Like, if Carolyn went in the coffin and had a weird reaction, I'm not so sure she would have been given the same treatment.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So
totally agree. And I don't think they would have said the same thing about, like, that's part of your personality. Like, I think they're tracking that as, like, that's part of who you are because you are Black. Like, that making it about who she is, not just how she reacted. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And it's sad. And I don't know. It just feels like on this show, when you don't have anything to go on, people go on their implicit biases, because that's what people rely on when they have nothing else. They use those weird, unfortunate tricks of their brains. And it felt like that, unfortunately, worked against Sierra here. And I really felt for her. And I was glad that she got to make that speech at the end and give a shout out to her mom. But yeah, it sucked. It didn't feel good to see her go.
No, that was awful. Yeah, I really, really hated that. It was just really gross. And it reminded me of what we had said before about how Alan was kind of being racist too, and the way that he said that about how eloquent she is or whatever because she swears. And same issue. So I had that as my bonus, something we've mentioned before, that it was the same issue as when we brought that up about Alan. And it is true. It's this like sort of implicit racism around swearing, being tied up with like aggressive Black woman, angry Black woman kind of trope.
Gross. Hate it.
Very
to
much.
See it. Post roundtable, Gabby said anyone could be used as a scapegoat. And then Tom said, I would still be wondering. I mean, you can say that about anyone. It's just weird logic.
Exactly. And then Dylan went on to say, well, I went with a popular vote and it feels like shit, which it absolutely should. And I actually wondered if he kind of tracked on how that was a little bit racist, because there seemed something like he was like very torn, like not torn, but like forlorn really about what happened. And there were other times he went with a popular vote, but I think he just felt like, I think part of him felt gross about how that happened, how that went down. And I think both because it was like sort of the men ganging up on the women, which it very much was, because the women were saying like, I wouldn't have done this, but my vote couldn't have helped. Dolores said that or whatever. And so I feel like part of it was like the men ganging up. And I think part of it was him also recognizing there's like a little bit of implicit racism here. I'd give him that benefit of the doubt. Do I know he has any attention to that at all? No, but one can hope because he seemed particularly forlorn by how that went. Gabby and Carolyn ask Tom. Carolyn says, maybe the shield left, quote unquote, like question mark. And Tom was like, no, we wouldn't want Sierra to have the shield because that would have been a waste of it because we wanted her to go home. And so they were both like, yeah, good idea. Good point. Carolyn and Gabby, like, they were like, that's smart. So then they leave that conversation thinking that there's no way that Sierra had it. Sam, Dylan, and Ivar are meeting in a hidden room.
Oh, yeah. I said this already. I think Sam is starting to play a sloppy game. I just think he's doing a bit too much. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, he's going in hard. And I didn't like the way Dylan said. So Dylan goes, let's do a real conversation with the three of us. It's like this little like men's, sit down. And it just felt the whole thing. I just was like, it made me realize how little we've seen Sam, but particularly Ivar, having these kind of conversations with women. I just really didn't like it. Dylan went on to say, one of the three of us will be gone tomorrow because the women are feeling ganged up on or in the hot seat, basically, because they're banded up knowing they're in the hot seat. So then, meanwhile, Danielle is following Carolyn into the bar room where this little hidden room comes off of. And she says, Carolyn, are we good? And they sit down on the couch and they're talking. And then Dylan comes out of the hidden room because they hear someone out there. And Danielle tells him, yeah, go ahead.
I think Dylan's playing a good game. I think he is kind of playing both sides. I think he's endeared himself to the women. And I also think he is kind of getting buddy with those men, which I think that sort of playing both sides will benefit him.
Yeah, I agree. Great point. He Danielle tells him, Dylan, it looks sus that you guys were in there in this hidden room. And Dylan tells us, so like, and then they don't say much else. Like Carolyn and Danielle just don't have much else to say. And so then Dylan's sort of like, what's going on? And they were like, well, we just think it's weird. Now we're weirded out. So then Carolyn gets up and leaves and goes into the hidden room. And then Dylan's talking alone with Danielle. And then to us, to the camera only, he says he loves working with Danielle. He's always been close with her. He trusts her, but now he's getting suspicious of her. So then the last little bit of it is we go to the Traitors turret, part 1. Danielle tells Carolyn that Sierra had the shield. Carolyn didn't believe her at first because she really believed Tom. She was like, well, I heard that it left. It couldn't have left. There's no way Sierra had it. And Danielle was like, I'm telling you, Sierra had it. And it does cut. Did you think Carolyn ended up believing Danielle that Sierra had it?
I thought so, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Me too. I thought it looked like it. I thought it looked like she was like, okay, fine. Like at the end. But it all could have been editing because all it was a look. Like a look that Carolyn gave us. I was like, okay, it looks like she finally believed her, but maybe not. But she did. I think Danielle was pretty convincing. So then Alan comes in, not surprisingly tells them that they're allowed to seduce one more player as a traitor or they can murder someone. Danielle, interestingly, wants to seduce where Carolyn wants to murder, which I actually was interested in that. I was wondering what that is. I think an argument for Carolyn's sake is that they will all know that they seduced someone. If someone doesn't get murdered, everyone's going to assume that someone was seduced. And so then they're going to be on alert for traitors. I mean, for faithfuls that they've known are faithfuls being traitors newly. Mm-hmm. So I can see where that's a risk. Danielle says, we need a female traitor. And then that person gets called out because now they're convinced that somebody's female. And then Carolyn says, okay, but the only person I know for sure wouldn't be a traitor is Dolores. And Danielle says, okay, but would you be open to Britney or Gabby? And Carolyn says, well, I prefer Gabby, obviously, because she's closer with Gabby. And Danielle's closer with Britney. And Danielle says, well, Britney's gaming savvy.
It would be such a bad idea. I'm so glad that Carolyn called it. It would be a horrible idea for Danielle and Britney to go together. They would ice her out in a second. Not even a question. It's kind of unreal to me that Danielle even thought that like there might be a chance that Carolyn would go along with that. And I hope the producers continue to like explore this because it would just be such a like if that happens. But even if it doesn't, I think Carolyn's done. She's a little like, how could you not see how bad this could be for my game? So I hope that continues to be explored because it just seemed, I was like yelling at my TV. I was like, there is no way in hell that this could happen.
No.
But
It would have been so unfair. It would be so unfair. And sure enough, Carolyn says, well, that would be stupid of me. I'm sorry to let her have Brittany. Danielle says, well, why? You think we'd team up on you? I was like, duh.
In a second. In a microsecond. Yeah.
Clearly. And she already knows you were trying to get her out recently anyway. So like none of that would track for her ever. She would never trust you. And so Carolyn says, girl, I can't. You'd be looking at me and saying I'm idiotic. And then Danielle says, well, the goal is to win this together. Like, the goal is that we all get to the end and win this together. It's like, no. If the goal is to make as much money as you can, and if you have to split it with 3 of us, you're going to be less likely to want it. I mean, you're going to just get less money. I mean, so you're going to be more likely to want to just be Britney and you at the end and get rid of me. It's just never good. No good outcome from that. So yeah, I agree. I hope that they let that die as an idea.
Yeah.
That they keep exploring how they talk about it, but that they don't let that happen.
Absolutely. And I would think that this would be the end for Carolyn with her, because that just, for me, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was mad. I was like, so it made me enraged. And that was the end of the episode.
Yeah. No, it made me enraged too. I just was like furious about it. I was like, just the fact you're suggesting it, the fact you're being like, what? You think we'd gang up on you? It's like, what do you mean? Of course she thinks that.
Yeah, it's all you've done is gang up on her and scheme against her, and you're going to take your new bestie who would feel endowed to you. And it's just,
no, it's wild. And Carolyn's so right. Like, the fact she's a gamer also means like she would go hard and she would be just as likely to do the same thing too. It's not just because she's close with Danielle, but also she's another threat basically to be in that position, even on her own. Say nothing of her closeness with Danielle. So yeah, I agree. I'm glad you're so right. I was so glad Carolyn picked up on that. Was like, no. And it's true, like Gabby's closer with Carolyn, but they're not that close. And Gabby's not a gamer. And if anything, if you're looking for a shield, like someone to be voted out because they're a woman, then Gabby's perfect because she's more of a like wouldn't know what's going on and got, evicted. I don't want that to happen. But based on what Danielle wants to do, Gabby makes more sense.
Right. But she just wants her bestie Britney there.
No, ma'am. So that was so fun. I really enjoyed that episode. There were so many good moments. There were so many sociopolitical things, racism, sexism, ableism. We've got it all, and then some moments that were, clippable moments that were fun to,
a few. A lot of Tom Sandoval's being like played as like the fool this season, which I have mixed feelings about. Like, I'm not really here for his redemption arc. And some of the moments are funny, is kind of how I feel. So we'll see.
And he's still ultimately a little bit of a like being picked on too. He's still a little bit of a scapegoat at the same time. But continue. Sorry.
No, that's pretty much it. Just like, I feel like I'm seeing it online a little bit where people are like, please give him a show, or like, and I'm like, no, like, that sort of thing. I'm like, he can just have some funny moments and we can move on with our lives and stop. Stop with him.
No, we want to pick on him a little bit, but we don't want to pick on him so much, like for a whole show, that it makes us feel bad or look like assholes or whatever, turns us into assholes. Like, I want to pick on him lightly, not in a mean way, and only in the context of this guy sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
not in a like, oh good, I'm so glad this guy's on my TV.
Right. Way. I think we've had plenty of him on our TVs for a very long time.
Yeah, and no more money. He doesn't not need money. We need to like limit that because he makes bad decisions. And, Well, we have some interesting news for everybody. One is that we have changed RSS providers as a part of like, we didn't get those 20 new members of Patreon, spoiler alert, which means also that we are limiting money and cost. So we've gone to a free provider for our RSS instead of paying for one, which also means that we no longer need to have downloads per se. You're also so welcome to download us, but that's no longer a metric that is required for us to be able to get advertising. So instead, if you could please keep listening to us as many hours as you can put forth into the listening world of our episodes, that would be a delight for us. We also have some great content on Patreon still. So for example, right now we have a recently posted mental health checkup on the oppression of emotions, and it's actually related to Ariana Maddox. So you will want to check that out. You do need to be a member to be able to see that, or look, even I think 3rd tier member to be able to listen to that. But it is really good. It's good content. And then we also have the latest video episode of our last episode that's available to tier 2 members. Eventually, we're going to have some episodes that we do, podcast episodes, be available only if you're a member of Patreon. So that doesn't mean you have to pay. You can be a free, brand free, totally, I was going to say brand
free. I like it.
You could be brand free, all the way free. You could be like brand spanking free a member where you do not pay a single cent and you just get an account because they're free on Patreon. You can get a free account on Patreon. You become a free member of our group here. And then if you're a free member, you'll get access to things that you can't get otherwise. And so some of our episodes will be in that terrain. So you'll see things like we're going to eventually probably put some Bachelor content up in that area. If you wanted to listen to our Bachelor episode, you just have to become a Patreon member. You can, again, become a free Patreon member and have a Patreon app on your phone and listen to it on your phone still. It has the same access as Apple Podcasts and everything else. 100% free to be able to do this if we're keeping the content free, which we will be doing with our audio content for episodes about things like The Bachelor. We have a new behind the scenes video that's being edited as we speak, and that will be going up for tier 3 members as well, which is kind of fun. Us chit-chatting, including about the VH1 era of reality TV shows, which was so fun, such a great combo. It's so great. So you'll see things like that. We have just a lot of fun things going on. So I hope you really will check it out. We adore you all, no matter what you do. But it would still be great to have some additional support because we are trying to figure this out here to be able to make this possible while still making our lives possible and all that good stuff. Also, to be clear, like, we'll never quit our day jobs. We're always going to be therapists. So no one's going to like keep us from doing the work that we do. It's being able to like be able to support the hours that we put into this, have that also be paid. So that what we do already is helping so many people at a very low price. And so if we were making money from their other hours, it would make it easier for us to stay working at a nonprofit. So, to help us help other people, that's what you'd be doing. And also our sweet Connor Sorer, who is doing our sound editing. So that would be great for your help. That would mean if you're going to do that, to join our Patreon, which is at patreon.com, patreon.com/reality test, which is the name of our podcast. So that would be how to find us on Patreon. You can also search at reality test, the @ symbol reality test on Patreon. Just go to the site first and then search that in the search bar. Then we are also on social medias. For example, you'll find us at drdr.realitytv for TikTok. We are at Dr. Ray Pods and Dr. K Pods on Instagram. We are at Reality Test Pod on YouTube. Our page is Reality Test Pod on Facebook. And our lovely email address is realitycheckpodding, PODDING, @gmail.com.
Yeah.
No, don't tell us to download because we don't need to download.
Yeah, no downloading.
What should be our new thing? What's our new call? Oh yeah. Rate, review, subscribe. That's what we should say.
Rate, review, subscribe, dear listeners. And downloading is a thing of the past.
Yes, exactly. Thank you to all of you who have, but it is a thing of the past. So,
and we will see you next session.
Whoop, whoop. Bye, friends.